Good morning, St. Francis. How are you? I'm here to bring our devotion, our weekly devotion. I hope that you all have been enjoying seeing all the different faces. Sharing devotions each week. I think it's so good for ways for us to be able to see one another and connect with one another um, through these. And so today is my turn to share a devotion with you. And I'm using this book called Canoeing the Mountains. Um, there's a couple of excerpts that I want to read to you. It just really speaks to me. It's about Lewis and Clark and their adventures. And I mean, we all learned that in school, but there's some stuff in here that I find pretty interesting. The first thing that I want to share is part of an excerpt from a letter that is included in this book from Thomas Jefferson. He says, "The object of your mission is to explore the Missouri River." And so Jefferson wanted Lewis to go and find the source of this river because they're trying to find their way. They're exploring and they're on this great adventure to find the Pacific Ocean. And they believed that if you could find the source of the Missouri River or the Mississippi River, that you would then be able to connect it to the Pacific Ocean, that it would lead you straight there. And so that would mean that you had money and you had resources and that you would be prospering. And we wanted our country at that time to prosper. And so this was a really important journey for Lewis and Clark and his Corps of Discovery to go on. And so I'm going to read a couple of excerpts, and I hope that what you will find is how fitting some of these words are to where we are in our life today. Some of the same questions and some of the same obstacles, some of the same experiences um, that that we're going through, right, with COVID and other things as they did then. Okay, you ready? Here we go. So it starts off, he dipped his hand into the icy water and took a long, cool drink. 15 months of hard travel, a seemingly endless string of days of back-breaking, upstream slogging had led to this moment. Meriwether Lewis recalled all that he had endured. And he says this: nervous nights in a strange land. Can you imagine? Mosquitoes galore, a dark, cold winter, grizzly bears, a month-long portage around an immense waterfall, month-long portage around a waterfall, and the death of a companion. But he was here, it says. So Lewis had gone scouting and he had sought all kinds of help from locals, from Native American tribes. And they had followed a small trail up a creek where the spring itself was. And that's what he was drinking water from the very spot, this small trickle of water that fed and was the source of the mighty Missouri River. And he thought, oh my gosh, we are here. Like everything that I have been fighting for, everything that I have been struggling for, all of the stuff that we went through, all of the hardships, I'm now here and I found it. That's what he thought. And so for years and years, people have been exploring. We all kind of know this, and finding a water route would be like the best thing ever. And all kinds of people were trying to claim that. And so when he was here, like just dying of thirst, and he got to that little stream, he thought, man, I'm going to be remembered for this. Like, this is the most amazing thing that I could even imagine. And what he believed is that he would then walk up a hill, look down a gentle slope, and that slope would only take about a half a day for his men to cross with their canoes. Well, they'd be carrying their canoes, but they would be able to carry their canoes. And they would see the Columbia River. And after 15 months of going upstream, they look forward to letting the current swiftly whisk them to the Pacific Ocean. They would crest the hill, find the stream, and coast to the finish line. They could not have been more disappointed. So I want to stop right there for a minute. I want you to think about the disappointments in your life and how you think that things are going to go one way, only to discover that they are not going to go that way at all. You think that you are like the smooth sailing is headed your way, only to hit another obstacle, and you think, oh boy, I don't know what I've gotten into. And we begin to question God. We question our faith in God. We question who God is in our life. We think that God doesn't love us or God doesn't hear us. But the truth of the matter is I think that we believe that because we are so convinced and so determined that our way is right and what we're thinking is the way that everybody thinks. So it must be the right way to think or the right way to do or the right way to look at life. And so, all of these people, I think there's one place in this book, it said that all of the experts for years and years and years and years, right, for 300 years, that everyone just knew that this was the way to go, that this was the thing that should be happening. And what he discovered, that there was no Northwest Passage. There wasn't a river that he was going to hop in after carrying his canoes and hopping in the canoe and coasting down the mountain. What they believed is what was east of the Continental Divide, that what was west was going to be the same way. And that they were going to get the top of these mountains and just coast down to the Pacific. And that is not what happened. In fact, when he saw the mountains, he says that it was just mountain peak after mountain peak after mountain peak after mountain peak as far as the eyes could see. But the other thing that I think is so interesting in this read about Lewis and Clark that really speaks to us and how we think in our everyday life is we can see with our own eyes the mountain peaks that stretch for miles and miles and miles and miles. But it says, I think it's so good, it says, even seeing the peaks looming in front of them for miles didn't compute. No American had ever seen mountains like these. It says, in the words of Corps Sergeant John Ordway, the mountains continued as far as our eyes could extend, and they extended much further than we expected. Or as another said, they were the most terrible mountains I'd ever beheld. And so even when they saw the Rockies and saw all of the mountain peaks, it didn't compute in their spirit that this journey that they were on was going to continue to be maybe not so smooth sailing, maybe a little tougher than what they had planned. I mean, Lewis planned on rowing in a boat to get where he needed to go. But he had to change his plans and he had to change his way of thinking. Even though he thought the hardest part was behind him, he began to realize that the hardest part was not behind him. And folks, that's kind of where we are in our daily life. I think it's part of the culture that we have adopted, including myself. I read this story and I'm very convicted because I go with what I know instead of trusting God, or I go with what I think it's supposed to be instead of trusting God. And sometimes this trusting God comes out and then I doubt myself. Do y'all do that? And so maybe what it is, maybe what we can learn today is that we just need to be on an adventure and take it day by day and seek the wisdom of God and pray to God and learn who God's voice is in our life. Not necessarily throw caution to the wind. We have to plan and prepare. But just because life has always been this way doesn't mean that it always has to be this way. God can do something in our life to change us from this job to this job, from looking for a job this way to looking for a job this way. Many of you have told me how you have learned so much through this stay-at-home order that we have been under. And so I ask you, the things that you have learned, what do you want to keep? What is so different that you have learned that you never thought in a million years you would find yourself in this place? Do you want to keep that stuff? Or do you just want to throw it away and coast back to normal? Is kind of what I'm thinking in my mind. Because the title of the book is Adventure or Die. So I think, wow, maybe I'm just going through the motions too much. Maybe I have too much of a ritual. Maybe I'm thinking the same way just a little too often. And so I challenge us today, maybe to ask God, am I caught? Am I in a rut? Should I throw caution to the wind just a little bit? What can I learn from you, God? What are you trying to teach me? And maybe we can go on an adventure with God together as a church, as a church family. And maybe we can let each other take the chances that God wants us to take, and we're there to support one another. I think maybe then we will truly see who God is in our life, and He will truly be glorified. I hope you all have a great day. I'm sorry for the long devotion this morning, but I do hope that it speaks to you in some way, and will keep you thinking and praying and talking to God. See you later, guys. Go in peace.